Before I touched anything related to Hoyoverse, I was hearing and seeing their ads on any social media platform I was on, from YouTube to Facebook, from passing mentions to paid sponsorship segments from the YouTubers I was watching. It also helped, in Hoyoverse's favor, that I have a friend who recommended Genshin to me back in 2022, the year I started this whole journey. The combination of background awareness through the ads and my own growing curiosity put me in a rabbit hole that has persisted to this day. And honestly, I ain't even mad that it happened. I have since continued to play Genshin to this day and gone into Honkai Star Rail and even Zenless Zone Zero, the latter being entirely the fault of a good friend of mine who was giving it a try back in 2024 when I was on a call with him. Thanks, bud. My name is Lewis, and today let me talk you through my journey through the Hoyoverse so far. There are 3 Hoyoverse games that I have played, and just so I don't go back and forth on myself, this video is gonna be structured differently. I will be talking about Genshin first, then Star Rail, and lastly Zenless. I also want to point out that since these games update every 2 months more or less, this video is probably gonna be dated and will be focusing on my experience with the story, characters, and gameplay at their core, not as of version blank and so on. Now that we're all on the same page, let's get started. Genshin Impact is an open-world fantasy action RPG released in 2020. It is set in the world of Tevat, where you play as the traveler who goes on a journey across the 7 nations with your trusty companion and guide, Paimon, as you're looking for your lost sibling. It took a little bit of getting used to Genshin's combat, especially with quick swapping characters and using abilities left and right. But when I did, the combat gameplay was satisfying. The attacks and damage numbers were flashy, but cool. It further clicked in my head when I understood how team dynamics worked, where 1 or 2 characters help and support the team, either through healing or shields or buffs, while the other team members can deal the most damage. And what is interesting for me is the endless combinations of characters I can put in a team in order to explore, or handle a group of enemies, or take down a boss enemy. As a result of all of these combat elements, the game plays smoothly and feels fun. Genshin's other strengths are in its story, characters, and especially the exploration. The journey explores diverse cultures and places, from the windy mountains of Mondstadt to the colorful and tropical lands of Natlan and beyond. The amount of quests, from the main story to world quests, can easily take hours, some of which I skipped through, sorry. But it's the thrill of experiencing an ongoing story that stays with me. I will say, the amount of quests can get overwhelming, good lord. But that just means there's more to be seen down the line. The variety of characters and personalities aren't just for gameplay. Their stories can shine through in either the main story or their dedicated story quests, or even hangout quests, which act as a slice of life. One of my favorite story quests focuses on Clorinde, a champion duelist in Fontaine that is playing a tabletop RPG with her friends Navia, Farina, and Linny as they experience the legend of the Marechaussee Hunters, an ancient faction from Fontaine's history. Without spoiling, this character's story quest stands out from the others with its use of tabletop RPG elements, almost like you, as the player, are taking part in an actual D&D campaign. The music in Genshin Impact is simply amazing. It brings that wonder, whimsy, beauty, and darkness that follows the story and places you explore. And even in epic boss battles or somber moments, the music amplifies the moment. It is amazing to see the effort and detail the HOYOMiX team have done with their plentiful amount of music. The balance and experimentation of orchestras, unique instruments, and choirs or artists is breathtaking. Again, the music is simply amazing. I could go on, but in summary, I am enjoying Genshin. It has good gameplay, whether it's combat or puzzles or mini games through events, and the exploration is immersive and just so big. As I'm writing this video, the game has 6 nations to explore, with Nodcry being the prelude to the 7th and last nation, Snezhnaya. Mind you, this is a game that can be played on PC, PlayStation, and on mobile devices for free. Granted, this has the trade-off of a massive game size, but once you dive into the game, the reasons why Genshin is so big begin to make sense. And the characters are diverse and plentiful, both in abilities and personalities. And for story, Genshin has a story that does have dips in quality along certain arcs, but for the most part, it has quite an immersive and engaging story, excusing the slow burn of it all. That said, there is one inherent flaw that I'll get into later that makes or breaks this story for some players, me included. Honkai Star Rail is a turn-based sci-fi fantasy RPG released in 2023, where you play as a trailblazer that joins the Astral Express to explore the vast universe full of planets and cosmic threats and wonders. Star Rail piqued my curiosity with its turn-based combat, a form of gameplay I haven't played before, so it was fun to give it a try. However, I do need to be more mindful when building a team, especially one that balances taking down multiple enemies and multi-phase boss battles. I find the strategy aspect of the game to be engaging, when there are different types of enemies with different weaknesses and mechanics that keep combat and the skills or abilities at my disposal a thinking game. I found myself really invested in playing as the Trailblazer, a member of the crew of the Astral Express, a space train that explores the vast universe under the belief or path of Trailblaze. And the rest of the crew are quite an endearing, lovely, and quirky lot, to say the least. You have Himiko, the Express's navigator, Welt, a veteran crew member, Dan Hung, the Express's guard and archivist, and March 7th, the youngest member of the crew, and yes, that is indeed her name. Already, from this group of people, the game hooked me with this found family, and it is always a lovely time playing through the story alongside them as trusted companions, aside from the growing roster of other friends and acquaintances along the way. The other characters are also quite a variety of personalities and backgrounds as well, from the mundane to downright unnerving or bizarre. Star Rail's story can be broken up into arcs based on where the Express goes, from Herta Space Station to Amphorius, where the Express is currently investigating, as of the writing of this video. The story varies in quality, but overall, so far, it is immersive and it does have its epic and sobering moments. That's the thing with Genshin, Star Rail, and as I'll get into later, Zenless. The story does have dips in quality in some parts, but overall, it is genuinely good. Without giving away too much, the moments where a combination of story, character moments, gameplay, and even music mesh together at certain points in the story, it genuinely excites me or pulls at my heartstrings. Those moments are powerful and really stuck with me even after I play further into the story. As I said, the Express can explore the vast universe, and that is reflected in its environments. It isn't completely open world, but I don't think it needs to be open world. The scale of these areas are plenty big and spreads its battle encounters and treasures well. The variety of these environments is quite fascinating and shows the level of detail the developers put into the game. From the clean and technologically advanced Herta space station to the glamour and atmosphere of Penacony, from the European-style towns of Yarilo 6 to the Greek-inspired style and history of Amphorius, wherever the Express crew goes, it is a feast for the eyes, and I admire the beauty and wonder that each place inspires. The music in Honkai Star Rail, oh my god. Simpler tracks are pretty good and they do suit the tone of the story or environment, and there are heartfelt and sad songs that really get me in the feels. But when it comes to the many epic moments in this game, the people in HOYOMiX, as well as some guest artists, boy howdy they cook. Songs like Wildfire, Samudrartha, Hope is the Thing with Feathers, and Pluie come to mind when it comes to music that has genuinely made the hairs in my arms stand.
We made a choice, go fight against your fate. They will come with the flame. They will wake up the despondent crowd. 撕裂心海之方，万军雷霆的巨响，浩瀚。
Zenless Zone Zero is an action RPG released in 2024. It is set in a post-apocalyptic urban setting. Now, I say action RPG. I'll let the footage demonstrate that the action can be found in specific arenas or battle spaces. The RPG part of Zenless can be found in its casual spaces, as well as elements like the story and characters. Zenless is about a proxy duo named Phaethon and their journey to discover the truth of the Hollows, the disasters born from the Hollows, and the forces that conspire to use these Hollows and endanger the innocent. The combat feels smooth and impactful, more so than I expected, especially coming from Genshin and Star Rail. The combat loop itself is similar to Genshin's, but there's elements that change it up, such as the need to build days in order to stun enemies and unleash chain attacks, which help dish out more damage. There's finer details in the combat, but all in all, it is familiar and fun. Emphasis on the latter because doing attack combos feels so satisfying. I want to mention one little element that has been added, where there are only 3 characters in one team. I say 3, but the supposed 4th slot is technically still there, but not for a character, but for a Bangbu, a kind of robot bunny creature that you'll see a lot in the game. And the game has a variety of Bangbu to choose from that do different things, such as deal supplemental damage, heal, and other effects. That and the unique attack animations for any one of them are adorable and entertaining. Zenless' story focuses on the duo named Phaethon, or rather, Bell and Wise, and their story of learning about the truth of the Hollows through their commissions with new friends and acquaintances as a proxy. Though the premise is straightforward, it's where these adventures lead that really hooked me to the story. From rescuing Phaethon's friends, the Cunning Hares, from the Hollow, to uncovering a conspiracy involving some of New Eridu's political figures and beyond, the story is very engaging and it got me very invested in what happens next, as well as who shows up and what surprises are around the corner. Belle and Wise are quite a lovable duo, further supplemented by their AI helper Fairy and the bangbu they have around their video store, including Eos. The many factions and characters are an eccentric and interesting variety of personalities from different backgrounds. A lot of the characters have backstories that all stem from the aftermath of a major disaster called the Fall of the Old Capital. As tragic and sad as a few of these characters' backstories are, their lives post-fall are captivating, especially in their triumphs and development from their darkest moments. I mentioned earlier with the premise of Zenless that it is set in a post-apocalyptic urban setting, and that is reflected in its modern and compact casual spaces. Places like 6th Street and Lumina Square feel familiar to real life and instill a grounded sense of style while still having elements of retrofuturism, adding an interesting flair to locations and implied storytelling, which I appreciate and find captivating. The Hollows are where the majority of the combat scenarios will be found, and it showcases a level of unchecked chaos and a sense of history, with how ruins and abandoned structures have been left as they were. Again, it allows implied storytelling to sprinkle in possible questions on the finer details amidst the action and chaos on screen. Zenless's music is unlike the other two games, by a long shot. As far as I know, the music is not being handled by HOYOMiX for the most part, like the previous two games, but instead by a group of artists named Sān-Z. And the best way I can probably describe the music is gritty dubstep, mixed with hints of lo-fi, pop, electronic, and punk. The sounds are familiar but blended in a way that really complements the style and setting of Zenless. The music is simply amazing, and most of the tracks are quite a bop. There is only one nitpick that bothers me, and it is exclusive to Genshin. I am referring to the sibling storyline. When you start the game, you as one of the Traveler siblings attempt to leave Tevat but are stopped by the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. As such, you are separated from your sibling, and after you wake up and rescue Paimon, you go on your journey to find your sibling. This would be an interesting storyline to follow if it weren't for the fact that each subsequent quest related to the sibling only answers some questions while asking plenty more in the process. This would be fine if this was done until like 2 or 3 nations in, but as of this video, and after 5 nations and hours of story and quests, it's only now or recently that during Natlan and Nodcry arcs where we're getting into who exactly is the sustainer of heavenly principles, how our sibling characters got to Teyvat in the first place, and a decent idea as to what the sibling has been up to. I am not a big lore guy when it comes to Genshin, but I've gotten so lost or forgotten a lot of the story beats from the sibling storyline that I've given up being deeply invested in it. Bedtime Story really soured my experience with this plot thread. How? Simply put, I felt like I wasted my time on a quest that has the traveler reunite with their sibling only to be told that the traveler won't remember the reunion, and the only evidence that it happened is one image tucked in their pocket, an image that the traveler probably has no context for. This one quest soured me so bad, it literally put me off playing Genshin for the sibling story. I have continued playing since Bedtime Story and experienced the Natlan arc, but the shadow of that quest continued to haunt every time I played, so much so that I had to stop playing the game for a long time. By the way, this problem with the story is based on my playthrough. If you enjoyed Bedtime Story and beyond, that's great! I can only speak of my perspective, so this particular nitpick is very subjective. I have since moved on from my hangups on Bedtime Story and continued from where I left off, though the backlog is considerably long. The only nitpick I have for all of these games is the grind. Simply put, grind refers to playing game modes and content within any of these games in order to build or improve the characters already acquired, making them better, stronger, and so on. It can be satisfying, but also very frustrating. I cannot begin to tell you how much building some of my favorite characters across all of these games felt like a double-edged sword of satisfaction and infuriating rage. Not much I can do about it, but it is something that rears its ugly head whenever a new character I like shows up and that realization kicks in. Now, I can hear the countless people that have brought up the fact that these games are gacha games. And in case you, dear viewer, don't know what a gacha game is, let me explain. A gacha game is a game where in order to get new characters and or equipment, you have to spend in-game currency to pull. You can earn said currency by simply playing the game or by spending money. Okay, now, hold on. Shush, let me speak. Now, I agree that this kind of game can or may make an uninitiated player feel really bad about their purchase history, life choices, and the amount of time spent playing. But I want to make it absolutely clear right now, there is no obligation or need to spend any money on these games at all. Ever since I started playing Genshin back in 2022, I have and will always be a free-to-play player. These games offer a lot already in terms of gameplay, story, and characters, to the point where I see no reason to ever spend a single penny. The option is there, sure, but it's an option I don't need to go out of my way to take. It is simply a matter of choice, a choice that you or I can make freely. It's as simple as, you want this character or weapon so badly, spend if you want to. If not, don't worry about it. Overall, I am enjoying my time with the Hoyoverse so far, despite that one big flaw on Genshin's part. I highly recommend Genshin, Star Rail, or Zenless if these games interest you or have hooked you in some way. I understand if you are hesitant to give it a shot because it's a gacha game, but Trust me, give any of these games a chance, you won't regret it. The fact that these games are 100% free to download and play on a variety of platforms still flips my wig because it adds convenience and freedom to where I can play. And I am aware that there are plenty of other games from MiHoYo or Hoyoverse, but I'm quite happy with just having these three in my life. Honestly, I didn't expect these games to be a big chunk of my current rotation of games, and I don't regret it. It has even brought me to events and new people. It's nuts! I can definitely say that I am a big fan, and I am curious to see where these games go from here. And that is my journey so far through the Hoyoverse games. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this. And if you have thoughts about Genshin or Star Rail or ZZZ, like your first 5-star character or favorite moment in the story, share them in the comments below. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.